gone 7:30. Good to have you with us. If you have just joined us, I'm Gareth Edwards. Welcome to the show. Let's get more reaction to the Section 89 panel report on the theft at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala Phala game farm. A lot of people are weighing in. It's either political analysts and other political parties. Let's get the thoughts then of eNCA spokesperson Pule Mabe joining us on the show this morning. Pule, good to have you with us. So I saw you pop your head up when you heard the soundbite from Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. You know I'm going to start there. Reaction to the step aside?
Well, morning to your viewers. We are sitting a special National Executive Committee on an urgent basis early this evening. We'll receive a report from our national officials who would have met following the release of the report. The ANC will be able to deliberate on that. And then once it is done, we will be able to then communicate what is the position of the ANC on the matter. We are an organization of process. We have to always show regard and respect to our own internal processes. Decisions of the ANC are made in meetings of the ANC. Those are appropriate platforms of the African National Congress. So when we meet, we will be able to make those kind of reflections. If there is a need for the ANC, given the report, to arrive at a certain determination that requires the organization to then communicate out to the public on its position, it shall do so.
There is some criticism leveled against the ANC, saying that there's no ways that the organization would ever, even after all the meetings and deliberations, would ever ask the president to step aside. What would you say to that?
Well, I do not even want to get into the merits or demerits of the case before us. But the ANC, where it needed to make such decisions in the past, it has done so. We have done so with our Secretary General, Comrade Ace Makashule. We have done so with sitting members of the National Executive Committee when they were facing situations which, according to our own guidelines, that really deals with the credibility and standing of the ANC. We had to ask those cadres that while they are attending to those cases, it is only fair that they take that kind of leave. In this instance, the ANC has not had a meeting, has not reflected on the merits and demerits of what is before us, its implications to the organization.
That's quite worrying. It's a couple of weeks away from elective. Why wouldn't you have reflected when this became an issue back earlier in the year?
Are you saying, no, talking about the report, are you saying that when a report was issued yesterday, we should immediately have called the NEC? The
Possibly?
report, no, but the report, you see, NEC means national. It means that there's a leader of the ANC who is in Nzingi, someone who's in Phala Phala, someone who's in the Eastern Cape. They are members of the National Executive Committee who are members of cabinet, who have got many other responsibilities. You know, so you had a report coming out last night. Officials would have said immediately afterwards, to show you that we are treating this thing seriously. Immediately afterwards, we are now being called to a special NEC. That shows, that reflects the speed through which the ANC acts to matters that has got an implication on its own credibility.
One of those NEC members spoke very quickly after the report last night. I'm sure you would have seen JJ Tabane with Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, so that was a very quick reaction from an NEC member. Should she have said what she did? Should she have spoken about it so early? What's your view on Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma commenting so quickly when you clearly, as you say, haven't had a meeting?
Well, members of the National Executive Committee carry their own views. They carry their own views. I mean, it's a democratic space. For as long as those views go on to represent what are policy positions of the African National Congress. So I don't think that there are big issues there. You know, we will sit in the meeting. Members of the African National Congress will be given a chance to be able to now place their own views formally in those meetings. But you see, there are things that we have said in various policy documents of the ANC that deals with conduct, that deals with malfeasance and all of that. The ANC has gone out to ask its own individual cadres where they are found to have erred on this or that to step aside from their position while they are attending to all of that. But there is a framework that guides all of this. So where we are...
Let's just talk... So I wanted to ask about views, because you mentioned views a couple of times now in response to what Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma has said. So were these the views of her as an individual or of her as an NEC member of the ANC?
Well, I'm sure that she's better placed to answer for herself that one.
But is it worrying to you as a party?
But I think, look, I don't know. I think that JJ Tabane would have invited her in her own individual capacity, because she's not the spokesperson of the ANC.
But she is an NEC member. That's quite important.
But not all NEC members speak on behalf of the NEC.
So who would they speak on behalf of?
But then you would have invited you will be interviewing the NEC now. You know, the reason why you are talking to the national spokesperson is because you only have got one person who speaks formally and officially on behalf of the ANC. That is written in the protocols. When members of the NEC express themselves outside the NEC, not mandated by the NEC, they are expressing their own views. They could be locating those views within policy positions of the organization. That is not in any way criminal. But they are not spokespersons of the ANC. The spokesperson of the ANC is this one who's speaking to you.
But you'll agree that she is a very high-ranking member of the ANC, knowing going into elective conference, she's not just an ordinary member of the NEC. She could be up for the battle against your boss at the moment. It carries a lot more weight, doesn't it? Surely you agree with that.
Agree with what?
That she carries a lot more weight, considering her position within the ANC and the hot contest between Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and President Ramaphosa at the last elective conference.
I don't think that it is really up to me to weigh views made by individual NEC members. You invited Comrade Nkosazana to an interview. She interpreted the instances and reports that are out there to mean that they warrant this kind of a sanction. So she will be able to, again, speak in the national. The good thing about Mama Nkosazana is that the very views she raises are the views that she raises in the meetings of the ANC. She doesn't just speak there with JJ, and when she gets to the meeting, that courage is no. Okay. Very often you find that the issues that members of the National Executive Committee raise, it's issues that they will also be able to raise in those. But what we are going to really request is that in between now and when we sit the National Executive Committee, we allow the structure of the ANC in the form of the National Executive Committee, directed by the Acting Secretary General, Comrade Pule Mabe, to take full charge of this and be able to direct how we communicate, so that we do not confuse society out there.
What do you say
people
to
of South Africa
parties?
have got to see us communicating one singular message.
What do you say to political parties, in closing, Mr. Mabe, who are saying that there's nothing to wait for, no need for an inquiry, the president must pack his bags and go? Now, what do you tell those political parties? It's expected, it's opposition parties, but what do you tell them?
Well, I don't know how they run their own political parties, but surely they don't go to a taxi rank and then take decision there without even arriving at a meeting. Things don't work like that. Things don't work like that. If they respect their own organizations, if they take the role they play seriously, they must also pledge regard to the African National Congress. We have to be respected ourselves. You know, we have to be given the space to attend to this. We can't, out of headlines, pelted out there in the media and immediately convey decisions like that. You can imagine. Then why are we an organization? Why do we have to spend so much time explaining to you that we'll be going to the 55th National Conference to elect the leadership, when we can just out of a headline then decide that, okay, this is now our decision? The ANC has got the constitution. The ANC has got policies. You know, the ANC has got resolutions coming out of conferences. And the ANC has got the leadership. The leadership of the ANC has got to steer the ship forward. The leadership has got to take responsibility of all that is happening around its own leaders and around its own organization.
And on those very clear policies which you talk about, let's talk about the step-aside policy, which you say is very clear. There are policies, there are conferences. Are there grounds for the president to step aside based on, as you say, the very clear policies of the ANC? Should he step aside based on those policies?
Well, I'm not as fast as some of you would be in the media. You know, I've not even studied the report, the contents of the full report itself. We are having a meeting today. We'll receive a report. If I've got views on matters that are out there in the public, having been empowered by the report itself and all other issues that one will have come to understand, I will be able to express my views in those meetings. And when I come out, I will then be able to reflect what is the position of the African National Congress on this specific issue. Because it would be unfair to invite a spokesperson and then in the middle of that interview expect the spokesperson to express their own personal views On organizational matters.
Perhaps we move away from your personal views then. What does the policy actually say on step aside? Because surely you can tell me that. You can keep the views for after the meeting.
Correct.
What does the step aside policy say exactly?
Because if you follow the step aside policy strictly, you would find that it says when you are charged, criminally charged and indicted to appear in a court of law, you would be asked to step aside. If you do not step aside while you are indicted and charged to appear in a court of law, would then invoke Rule 25.7.1, which then empowers us to impose on such individuals temporary suspension of their membership. So that's what the policy say. If you wanted me to assist you, you must be indicted to appear in a, criminally charged to appear in a court of law.
And very briefly, the conference is going to go ahead. Despite all this turbulence, conference is going ahead.
Yeah, conference is going ahead. Imagine if the conference of the ANC would be stopped by a headline. Really? 110, I mean, we're attending 111. Actually, we're attending 112 or so. We're growing. I mean, we're over 100 years old. So imagine our own organization. This year we turned 110. So next year we're attending 111. And then just out of a headline, we decide that we are liquidating the ANC. We can't do that, doing away with the revolution, the promise we have made to the people of this country. It can't happen. We have dealt with a lot of weighty issues in the past, but the organization still rose. Just in this term, in these 5 years, we've had to deal with a number of issues. I don't want to go to those issues, whether it was issues on President Zuma, it was issues on our own SG, it was the very Phala Phala issue that involve our own sitting president, many other matters, asking members of the National Executive Committee to step aside, having to come out in the public.
You're telling me conference is business as usual. That's what you're telling me.
I mean, conference has to sit. Well, if conference doesn't sit, then what mandate, what authority will we still have to call ourselves the leadership?
I appreciate you coming in. Pule Mabe, ANC spokesperson, joining us here on eNCA. Lots of reaction as well. It's also our viewer question. It's your show, it's your country, it's your say as well.